It's very interesting how we can gauge the relationship of the Philippines with the great powers, considering that there's not really a lot that has been said during the campaign. For instance, in regard to the relationship with China, the Philippines, now President Marcos met with the Chinese ambassador to the Philippines shortly after announcing his candidacy in October 2021. And then a couple of days ago, he had a very, quote unquote, a very substantial phone conversation with President Xi, where they did say that they were ready to shift, the relationship to a higher gear. This tells me that there is really a very high support from China towards the Philippines' pursuit of an independent foreign policy. During that phone conversation a couple of days ago, President Xi also said that he prefers talking again with President Marcos in private. So this is indicative that there is a high chance of talks continuing at the bilateral level instead of at the multilateral level.
Do you think after this phone call, it acts like a clear indicator that we will be seeing the Philippines moving closer to China in the years to come?
Yes, there have been indications that this is going to move the Philippines ever closer to China. But as to the extent and the level of that relationship is something that we would still need to wait and see.
What does the Philippines have to gain from closer ties with China? And on the flip side, what does Beijing have to gain?
Well, in the past 6 years during the Duterte administration, there have been a lot of benefits that the Philippines was able to gain, such as, for instance, the now infamous or notorious war on drugs. In light of all the criticisms that the Duterte administration received from the West, from the United States, the European Union, President Duterte needed an alternative backer to support him in his pursuit of the war on drugs. On the side of China, there were also some benefits that it gained, such as downplaying the 2016 arbitration award, marginalizing talks about the South China Sea in ASEAN when the Philippines was chair of ASEAN in 2017. There were also some maritime incidents that were understated, and this was part of this tit for tat strategy.
So the Philippines and China have had a rocky relationship over the past few years because of the growing tensions in the South China Sea. How do you think Marcos is going to handle this? And also, how's he going to navigate public opinion on this issue?
This is where it gets interesting, especially how presumptive President Marcos will have to deal with this, because there's a very strong anti-China sentiment on the ground in the Philippines. Surveys and studies in the last 2 years have shown that a lot of ordinary Filipinos and members of the Philippine strategic community still prefer the country's traditional partners like Australia, Japan, the Philippines, and China was way down in the priority list of potential partners. So one challenge for President Marcos would then be how to balance these interests about wanting to get closer to China, but also ensuring that public opinion and public sentiment about China can likely be can also be measured.
But what does this mean for the United States? You did touch on it very briefly. With China and the Philippines possibly growing closer, what does that mean for the United States, which is a treaty ally?
President Biden was one of the first people to call President Marcos to congratulate him on his win. And while administrations come and go, presidents come and go, it's the alliance that remains. And we've seen this despite the vacillation or oscillation of Philippine foreign policy, particularly towards the United States. The alliance still remains. There are annual exercises under the Balikatan framework, and there are very deep institutional and personal and professional linkages under the alliance. This is indicative that the alliance is resilient, but that also does not mean that we should be rest assured that everything will be, happy ever after in regard to the alliance. There's still a lot of alliance management mechanisms and tasks that both sides need to confront.